Hi, welcome again to another video. I'm April San Pedro and thank you for being here. In today's video, I want to share with you this beautiful fountain pen inks from Ferris Wheel Press. Recently, I just discovered the world of fountain pen and I'm just so obsessed with it. And right now, I'm discovering different inks. So today, I want to share with you this ink that I got from my friend Charmaine. This is also where I discovered this brand, Ferris Wheel Press. So after I used my very first fountain pen, I am then in search of different inks that will go along or that suits me, especially for sketching and journaling. And when I saw this Ferris Wheel Press, also from Charmaine, I know that I just wanted to try them out. Not only they have beautiful packaging, but I also see a lot of beautiful palettes from their ink collections. Here I got 4 different colors from 2 of their collections, one from Twilight Garden collection and the other 3 are from Morningside. So this is how I'm gonna swatch this ink. I'm using my very own Artisan Paperie Pandagdag. Also because I want to try my journal paper if it can handle inks. Although so far as I've seen from other Pandagdag users, they've tried it with different inks already and so far it already passed different inks. So at the top, I just wrote the brand name, which is Ferris Wheel Press, and I also added labels like the ink names, swab, brush, drip, shading, sample phrases, and pen use. I've seen some of the videos that they use cotton buds to swatch the ink. However, upon trying this one, I'm not really sure the relevance of it. Not only it removes the fiber of the paper, but I don't also see the actual color by using the cotton buds. That's why I also added the brush for the swatching. For our first color, I'm using the Main Street Marmalade from the Twilight Garden collection. I'm gonna swatch the entire 4 inks first and then we're gonna go through the other labels afterwards. The next 3 inks are from the Morningside collection. The first one is called Mint. I'm using how I swatch my watercolor here. I'm not sure if that applies. What I'm doing here is I'm just swatching it from dark to light, except for the swab, which I'm dabbing a second layer on top of it. I noticed when I added the second layer using the cotton bud, the fibers of the paper are slowly coming off. I also noticed that it made a thick lump at the back of the paper. However, if you want to test out your ink and the limit of your paper, it will be a great way to do so. The third ink that you're seeing right now is called Madame Mulberry. Unlike the 2 other colors, with this Madame Mulberry color, you can see how it differs from light to dark. One reason I'm doing an ink swatch is because I'm searching for the right ink that I can use for my journal and for sketching. Swatching is also a great way to play with your inks, or if you love collecting inks, then this is your way to check whether you already have the same colors or not. The 4th color that you're seeing right now is called the April Showers, also from the Morningside collection. Now, not to be biased because we have the same name, but I think this one is my favorite among the 4 colors that I have. Now, after we're done swatching, I want to try out the shading part using fountain pens. Before the inks arrived, I found out that I have 2 fountain pens that I'm not sure how I got them. So this one is from Jane Davenport and another one is just a cheap one that I think I got from Shopee, which you'll see later on. And since I know I wanted to try inks that come in a bottle, I ordered Pilotkakuno 40 converter for my Pilotkakuno, and I also added another Pilotkakuno. And I just realized then, since I already have 4 fountain pens, I can now test this 4 inks all together. And so I started off with the Jane Davenport fountain pen because I already refilled this one with the mint fountain pen ink from Ferris Wheel Press. And so far, I was surprised because I never really liked other colors than black or gray or brown for my inks. But surprisingly, I like how this turned out when I use it for my sketching. Next one, I'm using the Pilotkakuno. So this pen is actually the reason why I got a little bit obsessed with fountain pens. Now, this is my first time to use this Pilotcon 40. Jane Davenport pen has a different kind of converter. The Pilot converter has 2 different kinds. The Con 40 is a little smaller and they have a bigger one or a bigger slot for ink, which is the Con 70. Now, since this is my first time to try this one, I think I'm doing this wrong. Apparently, the ink did not go through all the way up. I just remembered when I saw some of the videos that there are some converters that you can just use the fountain pen nib and dip it directly to the ink bottle, and that's where you pull out or pull up the converter. So I think this is one of those kinds of converters. For this pen, I refilled it with the Main Street Marmalade. So here I noticed that the point tip of your pen will actually matter as well, depending on how you want to use your fountain pens. So here I realized that the smaller the tip, or if you're using the extra fine or the fine tip, your ink might also come out light. So upon researching about fountain pens, I discovered that your nibs will actually vary depending where it was made. So this Pilotkakuno is made from Japan, and technically their nibs are made a little bit thinner compared to the European ones. That's why when I use the Pilotkakuno and the Jane Davenport fountain pen, although they have the same nib type, which is just fine, I noticed there's a slight difference when it comes to the ink because the Jane Davenport fountain pen is a little bit thicker compared to the Kakuno. So I noticed when I used the Jane Davenport pen, the ink came a little bit darker compared to the Pilotkakuno. Alright, so this fountain pen is the one that I mentioned a while ago that I just found out that I had in my stash. So this one is a very cheap fountain pen. It's called Bakai. Cheap as in like it's about 100 pesos or less. And I was really surprised to find out that it came with a converter already. Now this one has also a fine nib, and I was really surprised with this fountain pen because even though it's very cheap, it's not that bad actually. Although I haven't really played with this pen that much yet, but so far it's really good. However, when I was already writing with this pen, I noticed that the ink is quite stuck up. I'm not sure if it just needed a little warm up or I don't know. But so far it's still good given the price. Lastly, we're gonna try out this new Pilotkakuno, which I got just recently in clear body. Now, I realized I should have bought a different nib because now I have 4 fountain pens with the same nib, which is the fine tip. Although it is quite okay, but I realized that this nib is better off, well, at least to me, better off when I'm journaling. But when I'm sketching, I needed a thicker one. That's why I should have gotten a thicker nib instead. So here, I still refill the converter with the same way by dipping it directly to the bottle or the jar. But if you're using this one, I would really suggest that you would try dipping the entire pen or the nib directly to the jar instead. Now, one thing that I learned from swatching the inks, I kind of realized what colors I really need for my personal use. So for journaling, I think I'm open with different colors. However, I might be sticking with darker ones. But for sketching, I think I might stick with darker colors instead. Although I haven't really used the fountain pen merely for sketching, because what I did is I added watercolor with it. And using light or different colors did not really sit with me well. And so for sketching with ink or with watercolor, I think I might stick with the darker ones. But for journaling, I'm still open with the different colors. But so far, based from these 4 inks that I have from Ferris wheel, I really like the Madame Mulberry and the April Showers. Now, just like I said a while ago, I used this ink with watercolor, and so I want to test it out in my sketchbook. Now, one reason I want to do this is because I realized when I refilled my Pilotkakuno with the cartridge, the ink that I used was not waterproof, so it ended up whenever I add water to it, the ink smudged. And that's when I learned that ink also matters. And so I want to test these babies or these Ferris wheel press inks if they are actually waterproof. And fortunately they are, and I'm just really happy to find out that they are waterproof, although I just need a thicker nib for sketching, so I'll have thicker lines for my outlines. So what I did is I drew this ink samplers that I have. Then I'm gonna add watercolor to check if the ink will actually smudge. If you want to try fountain pens with your sketching and you're also curious about fountain pen inks, I would really suggest this brand, the Ferris wheel press, because so far they have really wonderful color palettes that you can choose from. Other than that, they are also waterproof. However, if you like the effect of a little smudge from the ink, then look for water-soluble inks. Now, I was really happy to find out that the inks were waterproof, so I will definitely use the darker inks for my sketching now. Apologies though, because in this video I did not show how to use this ink in journaling. However, while swatching, I used my Artisan Paperie Pandagdag journal, which is technically what I use for journaling, and let's just say that is how it behaves when it comes to journaling paper. Later, I'm also gonna show you the back of the Pandagdag journal so you can see how the inks behave. When using fountain pens in journaling though, you have to consider what kind of paper you'll be using, because not all paper can handle the fountain pen inks. So that's one thing that you will be considering. So by doing this practice, this is actually where I learned that I'll definitely need a thicker fountain pen nib, because as you can see, the outlines here did not really show up. Also because I'm using a very light ink, or the ink tends to get lighter because I'm using a fine tip. If you bought one of my Pandagdag journals, this is how the paper behaves with fountain pen inks, specifically with the Ferris wheel press inks. Now, I was really happy how this turned out, because if you're just using your pen with the usual writing, you won't be seeing any bleed or feather at the back. As for sketchbooks, I'm using 25% cotton watercolor paper, and this is how the ink behaves. And here's a closer look of that swatch we made. I'll also post more photos of this in my blog. And that's about it, friends. I hope you were able to pick up something from this video. And if you have any fountain pen inks recommendation for me, please leave them in the comments below. I would really love to know them. Now, thank you again for watching and see you again on my next video. Bye!